Hello everybody and welcome to the last part of learning Sprite animation. If you watched my last tutorial, basically in the animation class we learned how to actually create the animations and crop out the animations and draw those animations to the screen. So let's work on actually the initialize method, which is the last thing we need to work on. So what we're going to be storing is the position. We're going to be needing the amount of frames. I'll just name this frames, and we'll actually specify the switch frame right here. So we're going to set switch frame equal to 60, and we're going to put that this position is equal to position, and the amount of frames is equal to frames. So we're just making a copy of it so then we can in turn draw it to the screen. So now let's go straight to our player class. So what we're going to be doing is making an instance of the animation class, and I'm going to name this player animation and create the animation class right there. So in player initialize, we're going to do player animation dot initialize. So we're gonna store the player's position, and we're gonna store the amount of frames. So we're simply gonna do this by doing new vector 2, and the frames are 4 by 4. Now this isn't the best way to do the frames, but I'm just gonna be doing this way to accommodate for the tutorial, just to get you guys the gist of the tutorial. So we've initialized. So for our load content, we load our player image, but we have to in turn get our image equal to, into the player and into the animation class. So there's many ways we could do this. We could either make a load content method, or we can create another property called image, or animation image, and we'll put a set property because that's all we need to do, and we'll put image is equal to value. So if we go back to player, I need to set this back. So if we go back to player, right here after we load our player image, we just have to do player animation dot animation image equals to player image. So we've stored the player image into our animation class, or in our animation instance. And sorry if you guys aren't familiar with classes, but C# is an object-oriented language, so if you need to actually know classes to program in C#. So let's look at our update right now. And one thing I forgot to tell you is that we have to use one more thing, and that is the input. And normally you would have an input state class or input manager or something to handle the input, but for this tutorial's sake, we won't do it. So for the update, we're just gonna do player animation dot update, and then we're going to do player animation dot draw. Now we're just going to set active to true, just to show you guys how it's gonna work. So we need to go to game1.cs, and we're gonna delete all this stuff. This is from the last tutorial. So we're gonna create a new instance of our player class. So we've created our instance, so we want to initialize player. So player.initialize. So we've initialized that. We want to load our actual content. So we're going to do player.load content, and then put in the variable content in there. So the same content variable we used to actually load our content before, we just pass in the parameters since we were making a copy of it to use its functionality. So if we delete all the stuff here, we do player.update, and we pass in game time, Same game time value is here. And for the sprite batch to draw, make sure you have sprite batch.begin and sprite batch.end. So we're going to put player.draw. And if everything goes as planned, it should animate. So let's see what we get. So if you look on the screen, your player should be animating. It should be scrolling through the different frames. So it doesn't really look smooth and stuff yet. It looks like it's moving at an uncontrollable rate. So let us go back to our code to see if we could actually fix that. So if we set our switch frame to a higher value, let's set our switch frame to 100. Let's see if our image will move at a slower rate. So see, the higher the number you give for switch frame, then the slower the animation moves. This is because it has to count that much higher in order to switch the frame, so it has to wait that much longer before it switches frames. So the faster you want it, the lower the number you put for switch frame, and the slower you want it, the higher you put for switch frame. So say you want to make a walking animation and a running animation, you could just put a higher value for switch frame if you want it to show a walking animation, and if you want it to look as though it's running, then you set a lower value for switch frame so it looks as though the legs are moving at a faster rate. So now that we've got our animation down, now we have to actually handle input. So we've learned about keyboard input already, but we're going to be learning how to do this to manipulate, to cycle through each of the frames. So if we go to our player, what we're going to do is that we're going to set at the top player animation active equals false. Okay? No, actually we're going to set this to true, sorry. So what we're going to do right here is that we're going to put, what we want to do is that we actually want to make another vector 2 called current frame as well. And this is just a temp, so a temporary, so we can say temp current frame, I guess. So this is just temporary, that's a temporary value right now. So just to, when we initialize it, we could just set it to vector 2 0. So if we look at our update right here, we want to do, if we want to actually work for the keys first, and I forgot to actually make our key states. So keyboard state, we want to put key state. So we're going to put at the top keyboard key state is equal to keyboard.getState, so we can actually get keyboard input. So we say that if key state dot is key down keys dot down, then we want to actually move the player down. Now how do we move the player down? Well, we have to set the current frame equal, we have to set the current frame equal to a certain value so that it moves down. Now there's multiple ways that we could go about this. We could do, if we go back to our animation, we've set it that we start from the current frame X and current frame Y. Well, we could do this if we would like to. We could do times frame height right there. And then what this will do is that if we, instead of setting the current frame Y and stuff to the initial value, because it could get confusing. You could be like, if I'm drawing left, yeah, I know 0 plus 48 is equal to 48. And if I want to draw the right animation, then I have to figure out what's 48 plus 48. And that's equal to 96. So if I want to draw the right animation, I have to start drawing from value 96. Now what's 96 plus 48? And that can get a bit confusing if you really don't want to do math in your head. So what we can do is that we could say that this frame, the down animations is 0, left animations is 1, right animations is 2, and up animations is 3. So it's sort of like an array, 0, 1, so 0, 1, 2, 3. So, and because we're going to do that, we're going to figure out where we should start drawing from. So if current frame Y is equal to 0, what's 0 times 48? That is equal to 0. So it knows that current frame Y should be at the pixel 0. So say we're pressing the left button. If we're pressing the left button, then current frame Y should be equal to 1. So then if we do 1 times 48, that equals to 48. So we'll know how to start drawing from there. And if we're pressing the right, then current frame Y should be equal to 2. What's 2 times 48? That's 96, and then we'll start drawing the right animation. So that is a better way to go about it.